Alright, so good day to everyone. This is our second video discussion mali pala. This is our second video discussion for TOU 046. As I have said, for midterms, we will focus on the financial statements side of your business plan. And in the previous video discussion, what do you call this? We already tackled the startup expenses. Now we're going to tackle the profit and loss statement or the income statement and the break-even analysis right over here. I decided to remove cash flow projection kasi uh, when it comes to business plan proposals or starting up your own business, hindi ganoon ka-essential yung cash flow projection. Essential siya pag nag-ooperate na ang business ninyo, pag ongoing na. So in this case, I will just remove cash flow projection and we will just focus on income statement or yung P&L natin, tinatawag, and yung break-even point natin or break-even calculation. So without further ado, let's begin. Now, we have here an example of our template for income statement. Paano nga ba natin to titingnan isa-isa? O ano nga ba ang essence ng income statement natin? Income statement po, ginagawa ito ng mga businesses para malaman natin kung gaano karami ang pumapasok na pera at gaano kalaki yung lumalabas na pera at kung gaano kalaki yung matitira para sa atin na pwede natin i-consider as income. Now, the first thing that we have to identify is of course your sales. Ang sales natin is yung accumulated na benta by selling our products. Other sales na nakalagay dito is yung other sales na na-accumulate natin pero hindi siya nanggaling dun sa main source of income natin. Let's say for example, kayo ay isang for the sake of our section, let's say for example, we are a coffee shop. And then sa coffee shop natin, we offer drinks and we also offer pastries and snacks. Pwede kasi tayo, magpo-produce tayo ng ating pastries and snacks and then we will sell those pastries and snacks as an outsource for other businesses. Let's say, for example, there are other cafes or there are other restaurants out there who is looking for pastries and snacks na seller. Tayo, as a business that offers pastries and snacks, can sell our products as an outsource, kumbaga. You identified outsource, di ba? Para siyang commissary. Bibili ka sa labas ng mga product and then ibebenta mo for your own company, for your own establishment. So, pwedeng ganun din na mangyari pag kayo ay lumaki na or pag kayo ay medyo sanay na sa inyong trabaho. Pwede kayo magbenta ng inyong snacks and pastries to other cafes for outsourcing. So, that's a form of other sales. Other forms pa pwede, baka mamaya meron kayong ginawa na deliveries or meron kayong ginawa na transport business of some sorts or like that. Ganon. Basta other sales dito is sales na na-accumulate ninyo by without really relying on your main source of income. Next, we have your cost of goods sold. Actually, let's just label it as this, cost of goods sold. Ayan. Sa cost of goods sold, ang lalagay natin dito, of course, meron dyan, cost 1 to 7. Again, pwede kayo mag-delete, pwede kayo magbawas, pwede kayo magdagdag pa. Ang ilalagay nyo dito is yung mga kailangan ninyo for your operation. Ano yung mga yon? Meron dito yung raw materials, meron dito yung inventories ninyo, yung stocks ninyo in order to produce your products. Nandito yung labor, pwede rin kasama ang labor dito kung gusto niyo siyang isama dito sa cost of goods sold, no? Yun. Ang cost of goods sold natin is yung mga kailangan natin sa business para ma-produce yung ating final output. So, ang raw materials, inventory, and stocks, dito siya nakalagay. And then you will total those, revenue and sales. You have to subtract you have to subtract total goods sold minus the sales. And then, pag sinubtract mo na yung total goods sold minus sales, lalabas na ang gross profit natin. Next, after identifying our gross profit, we will now identify our expenses. So, ano yung mga expenses natin? Again, this will all depend to you. Kayo as your business owners. Salary expense, payroll expense, outside service, supplies, office and operating. Siguro dito nakalagay yung mga papers, pens, staplers, tape, scissors, mga ganyan. Mga kailangan ninyo sa office and iba pang mga kailangan yung supplies for your operation. Repairs and maintenance, advertising, car, accounting and legal, rent, important, utilities, again, also important, insurance, depreciation, important din, pero in your case, kahit wala naman na siguro to, pero mas maganda kung may lalagay ninyo. Again, this will all depend to you as the business owners, kung ano ang mga expenses na ma-accumulate ninyo in your business. Pwede kayo magdagdag dito, pwede kayo magbawas. Again, this is all up to you. After that, after generating your total expenses, you have to now subtract total expense to gross profit. After subtracting total expense to gross profit, makukuha nyo na ang net operating income natin. And that's it for income statement. Ganun lang siya kabilis, ganun lang siya kadali. Now, sorry for that. Now we're going to proceed with computing our average check. Of course, no, tatanungin niyo ako, Sir, paano kami magre-record ng sales namin dito? Wala pa nga kaming actual sales. We are just trying to start. Diba? Nag-start pa lang kami. Ano ang ilalagay namin dito na mga data para makakamap kami ng sales namin dito and yung cost of goods sold? Well, dito tayo ngayon sa pag-compute ng average check. And actually, hindi lang average check ang kinakompute natin dito. Dito sa table na to, you will see different months, of course. We have here January to December, same with this one. And then we have here number of guests served. AC is also considered as average check, average variable cost per guest, and sales. Now, lahat ng gagawin natin dito is purely assumption. Lahat is ina-assume lang natin. Pero, di ba, as much as possible, we would like to have an accurate assumption. We cannot really create an accurate assumption, pero we try our best to be close to an accurate data as much as possible. So, paano natin makukuha yung kahit papano accurate na assumption? First, we have discussed in operations management that we have capacity. We have here yung capacity na kaya nating i-serve or kaya nating accommodate sa ating establishment. We have yung design capacity and we have yung effective capacity. Now, by using that method of identifying your design capacity and effective capacity, you can then come up with a total number of guests na pwede nyo i-serve. Let's say, for example, sa inyong coffee shop, you have a capacity of 60 guests. So, yung 60 guests na yon, kaya mong i-serve yon. Nakadepende yon kung that is your design capacity or effective capacity. In this case, we'll use it as effective. So, we have here 60 guests na pwede nyong i-serve. And then, i-multiply nyo yun sa mga months na darating. 60 guests per day, diba? 60 guests per day ang pwede nating i-accommodate. I-multiply nyo yun by 30 or kayo bahala kung gaano karami. Basta, ang gagawin natin dito is you have to assume as much as possible kung gaano karami ang guests na masaserve ninyo. We have here, of course, off-season and peak season. Tama? Sa restaurant industry and sa hotel industry, meron tayong tinatawag na off-season and peak season. Meron tayong summer season dyan, March, April, May. Rainy season, June, July, August. Burr months or yung holiday seasons natin will start by September and end around February. So, nandyan yung you try your best as much as possible to assume how many guests can we serve in this month. Let's say, for example, number of guests na kaya nyong iserve for May is around, siguro peak yan, diba? That is a summer season. And ang business niyo, let's say, for example, is a resort of some sort or hotel sa ibang bansa. Or sige, let's stick with coffee shop. Pag coffee shop, around May, hindi siya ganun kadami din, as much as possible. Hindi siya ganun kadami compared with June, July, August na dumadami may mga students bigla na may mga allowance na gustong bumili ng coffee or gustong mag-aral sa mga coffee shops. So, mga June, July, August, para dami ang number of guests nyo. So, let's say, for example, by May, kaya nyo mag-accommodate ng 250 guests. Let's say, for example, this is just an example, ha? 250 guests ang assume natin, ang assumption natin na number of guests served natin sa month ng May. Average check naman here, we have a computation for average check. Yes, na-discuss ko to sa inyo doon sa food and beverage costing natin. Pero in this case, ang average check natin is also an assumption. And how will we assume our average check? Look at your menu pricing. Gaano kalaki ba ang presyo ng mga products ninyo? And kung ikaw bibili mag-isa, individual, how much will you spend in your establishment? Let's say, for example, the price of your coffee is 100 pesos. And then you also have a food and snacks of 50 pesos. So, on average, a person can pay you 150 pesos. Diba? Again, this is all an assumption. And it will all depend on you as the business owners. Kung gaano kamahal or yun nga, yung presyo ng inyong mga products. So, in this case, we have here 100 peso coffee or 100 peso drink, and then we have a 50 peso snack or pastry. A total of 150 pesos. So, ang average check natin per guest is 150. To get our sales, we will multiply 150 by 250. And that is 150 times 250. We have 37,500. So, pwede natin isulat dyan, 37,500. Or simply put, you can just put here a formula of this one multiplied by ito. Yan. So, yan. Meron na tayong sales na nakalagay dyan. The next thing that we have to do or consider is to get the average variable cost or yung average variable cost per guests. Now, di ko pa pala ito na-discuss sa inyo, pero sa business kasi, we have two types of costs. We have variable cost and we have fixed cost. Based on the terms itself, variable cost is changing. It will change depende sa dami na naging produce nyo ng output, or dito na kasama yung cost of goods sold, no, sa variable cost. Kasama rin sa variable cost yung wages ng mga tao na binayaran niyo to operate on that specific month. Kasi syempre, yun nga, no, may mga peak season kasi, so minsan may mga times na hindi ganoon karami ang nilalagay natin sa field. Minsan naman, masyadong marami ang nilalagay natin sa field kasi maraming guests na ina-expect. So, ang variable cost natin will depend also to you. You can search in the internet kung ano yung mga types of variable cost. Ang masasabi ko sa inyo yung types of variable cost is yung cost of goods sold ninyo, inventory, stocks, raw materials, and wages. Yung mga salary ng mga tao. You can search the internet to further identify kung ano pa yung mga pwede ninyong ilagay as variable cost. Now, fixed cost naman is yung based on the term itself, hindi siya nagbabago-bago. Fixed cost is fixed. Samples of this are rent, utilities, pwede, advertising, marketing, office supplies, other expenses, bangko, pag may niloan kayo sa bangko, mga interest ninyo, yon. Basta fixed cost, it will never change. Fixed lang siya throughout the whole year or throughout the whole time that you will operate. Now, let's say for example, after identifying all of your variable costs and totaling them, let's say for example, ang total variable cost mo is 20,000. Lagyan natin dito. Total variable cost. We have here 20,000. Let's say for example lang yan ha. Again, it will all depend to you as the business owners. Now, after summarizing all of your variable costs, you will get 20,000 here. Ang gagawin natin para makita natin yung average variable cost per guest is to divide total variable cost over the number of guests served. So, ibig sabihin sa month ng May, nakapag-accumulate tayo ng 20,000 of variable cost. In order to get the average variable cost per guest, we have to divide 20,000 divided by 250. And that is 80. So, ibig sabihin, meron tayong 80 pesos na variable cost per guest. 80 pesos ang variable cost natin per guest. Now, bakit natin kinuha ito? Aside from for us to generate sales, lagay natin dito sa month ng May. Ayan, lagay natin 37,500. Lagay natin, ayan, 37,500. So, aside from data na pwede natin ilagay dito sa profit and loss projection, pwede rin natin kasi magamit din itong data na to, para sa ating break-even analysis. Now, what is break-even analysis? If you will search the internet for the definition of break-even analysis, it is the point wherein your profit or your sales is equals to cost. Ibig sabihin, break-even, pantay. Yung pagkakataon na magpapantay ang sales mo at ang cost mo. Ibig sabihin, hindi ka kumita, hindi ka rin nalugi. Break-even, equal. Equal ang accumulate mong sales at equal din ang ginastos mong cost. We have to identify the break-even analysis in order for us to know gaano karaming guest ang aking kailangan iserve para kumita ng pera. Gaano kalaking pera ang kailangan kong makuha sa sales para malaman ko kung may kinita ba ako o hindi. Dito siya papasok sa break-even analysis. And we can do two types of break-even analysis. We can have here break-even analysis per unit or per guest. Makukuha natin yung break-even point per guest. Ibig sabihin, makukuha natin kung gaano karaming guest ang kailangan nating iserve para makapag-break-even tayo. Para makuha natin yung sales, yung equal na sales at equal na cost. Or, pwede rin natin gawin yung break-even sales, wherein yung sales naman ang titingnan natin para malaman natin kung kumikita ba talaga tayo o hindi. Now, let's do this graph. Ayan. Sa graph na ito, nakalagay ang average check natin per guest is 150 pesos. So, ang ilalagay natin dito is 150. Average variable cost per guest, nakalagay sa ating computation, that is 80. So, ilalagay natin dito 80. Napansin nyo, nagbabago tong value na to. This is called contribution margin. Ibig sabihin ng contribution margin natin is kung gaano kalaki ang natitirang pera sa atin pang gastos natin para sa mga fixed cost natin. After subtracting variable cost and after subtracting variable cost to our average check, malalaman natin kung ano yung contribution margin natin per unit or per guest. And itong pera na to, ibig sabihin, ito yung natitirang pera kada benta natin na pwede nating ilaan para matubusan natin itong mga fixed cost natin. Again, uulitin ko. contribution margin, ito yung matitirang pera sa ating nabenta na pwede nating ilaan or itubos para sa ating mga fixed cost. So, ibig sabihin, sa kinita natin na 150 pesos per guest, meron tayong variable cost na 80 pesos. May natitirang 70 pesos doon sa kinita natin na pwede nating itubos or ilaan para may panggastos tayo or para may pambayad tayo sa mga fixed cost natin. So, this is the contribution margin. Yun po ang tawag doon. Next, we have to identify now our fixed cost. Let's say, for example, after identifying all of the fixed costs, again, this is all up to you as the business owners kung ano ang mga fixed cost ninyo sa inyong business. Let's say, for example, we will accumulate 10,000. So, 1,000 for here, 1,000 then, 1,000. This is just an example para makakuha tayo ng 10,000, no? Okay, lapit na. Oop. Lapit na. 8, 9, 10. Ayan. Sorry, may computation na lumalabas. No? Pero i-explain ko yan. So, for example, in our business, we accumulated 10,000 pesos of fixed cost. Ang gagawin naman natin ngayon na na-identify na natin ang fixed cost at ang contribution margin natin, kung gaano karami ang pwede nating ilaan para panggastos dito, we will now divide fixed cost divided by contribution margin. Lalabas dito ang break-even point per guest natin. Ayan, nakalagay dyan. That's B30 over B9. B30 is B30. This is the fixed cost. B9 is this one, contribution margin. So, ayun nga. In order to get the break-even point, we have to divide the fixed cost over contribution margin. And then we will have here 142.86. This figure means 142.86. Kailangan nating makapag-serve ng 142 or 143 kasi i-round off natin to. We cannot have a 0.86 na person or guest, di ba? So we will round this up into 143. So ibig sabihin, kailangan natin mag-serve ng at least 143 guests with an average check of 150. Kailangan natin mag-serve ng 143 guests para mabayaran lahat ng fixed cost natin for that month. Ibig sabihin, pag tayo ay nakapag-serve ng 143 guests, hindi tayo kumita, hindi rin tayo nalugi. Nabayaran natin enough yung costs na kailangan natin for our operations. It means, pag meron tayong mga na-serve na guests, 143 and up, ibig sabihin, kumita tayo. Pag ang number of guests lang na na-serve natin is 143 below, ibig sabihin, nalugi tayo. So, yun yung break-even point per guests natin. We have to identify this para malaman natin kung tayo ba ay kumikita o hindi sa ating business. And in this case, 143 guests ang kailangan nating iserve para mabayaran natin lahat ng operation cost natin, fixed cost and variable. Ibig sabihin, pag ang number of guests natin is umabot ng 145 or 150, kumita na tayo. Lahat ng kikitain natin after serving 143 guests, kita na natin yun. Yun ang ibig sabihin ng break-even point for guests. Now, let's try to identify break-even point by sales naman tayo. This one is per guests. This one is per sales. Gamitin natin yung same data dito sa ating previous table. We have here sales of 37,500. So, lalagyan natin dito is 37,500. And then we have variable cost kanina is 20,000. So, we have here 20,000 variable cost. Kung naalala ninyo, no? ang variable cost natin para makuha natin yung 80 is 20,000. So, I guess di ko naman na kailangan siguro ulitin sa inyo yun, no? Again, variable cost, it will depend to you as the business owners. And in this case, in this example, our variable cost is 20,000. In order to get the contribution margin, we have to again subtract variable cost from sales. Para if we will subtract variable cost from sales, we will accumulate 17,500 pesos. And then, in order to get contribution margin, para makuha natin yung contribution margin, kailangan po nating i-divide ang contribution margin percent po ito ha, hindi contribution margin per se. We have to get kasi contribution margin percentage. And in order to get contribution margin percentage, we have to divide our accumulated contribution margin over sales. So that is contribution margin divided by sales. We will have 47%. If you will see here the formula, this is E9 divided by E6. E9 here is yung contribution margin natin. So it means ito yon. E6 natin is yung sales. This is sales. And then number 6. And then E, sales. Ayan. So we have to divide those in order to get contribution margin percentage. And then afterwards, ganun ulit, i-identify natin yung fixed cost natin. Copy na lang natin dito. Ayan. We have here total fixed cost of 10,000. And then, ang mag-iiba sa formula, dito kasi sa per guest natin, ang dinivide natin is total fixed cost divided by contribution margin. Dito naman, ang i-divide natin is yung total fixed cost divided by contribution margin percentage. Alright, so if we will divide our total fixed cost now over our contribution margin percentage, we will come up with this figure, 21,428.57. So ito yung ibig sabihin, kailangan kikita tayo ng 21,428.57 pesos para makapag-break even tayo, para matubunan natin ang ating operating cost, which is yung fixed cost at yung variable cost natin. Now, if you will see, no, para makita natin, para malaman natin kung tama ang ating computation, if we will compute average check times 142.86, kasi diba 142.86 or 143 na ang sabihin natin na number of guests na kailangan nating i-serve para makapag-break even tayo sa guests natin. Lalabas na 21,450. Medyo malapit siya dito sa break-even point natin na sales. Kasi kung magiging accurate tayo, 142.86, mas malapit sa 21,429 natin. Actually, yun na siya mismo eh. Kasi pwede naman itong i-round off din. So, dito mo malalaman kung tama ang naging computation mo sa break-even per guest at break-even per sales. And dapat naman talaga, parehas lang siya, tama siya. So, ibig sabihin, kailangan kumita tayo ng 21,428 pesos para lang matubusan natin lahat ng operating cost natin. Pag kikita tayo above 21,428, ibig sabihin lahat ng yon pasok na sa ating pera. Kita na natin yon. Pag mababa naman yon, pag bumaba tayo sa 21,428, ibig sabihin loss yon. Hindi tayo kumita. Mas gumastos pa tayo. So yun ang computation ng break-even natin. And this is very important kasi kailangan natin ma-identify kung gaano karami ang kailangan nating i-accumulate na sales para lang malaman natin kung tayo ay kikita ba talaga sa business natin or hindi. And again, tulad nga ng sabi ko, this is all according to you as the business owners. Kasi iba-iba naman ng fixed cost yan, iba-iba ng average check yan, iba-iba ng variable cost yan. Iba-iba lahat. Magdadepende yan sa inyo. as the business owners. And it will depend here in this table. Kaya importante na meron din tayong table na to. And when you do this table, pag kayo ay magko-compute na ng ganito, please try to take note of all of your assumptions. Bakit 250 ang inassume nyo na guess nyo ng May? Bakit 300 ang inassume na guess nyo ng June? Bakit 350 ang inassume nyo na guest for December? Bakit 400 ang in-expect nyong guest for December? Again, kasi this is all assumptions. Pero we want to be as accurate as possible. Kaya lahat ng basis ninyo for assumptions, kailangan take note nyo yan. Kasi tatanungin niya ng panelist ninyo, bakit ganyan na naging assumptions ninyo? Saka ninyo kailangan depensahan ang inyong assumptions. Kaya kailangan pag-iisipan ninyong mabuti ito. Kasi ito talaga yung titingnan. And ito talaga ang titingnan ng mga investors ninyo. Pag kayo ay maghahanap ng investors for your business, ito ang isa sa mga unang titingnan nila. Profit and loss projection and yung break-even analysis. These are all very important financial statements. So, I hope meron kayong natutunan kahit paano dito sa aking video. Again, if you have further questions, please feel free to ask me anything and I will answer you as best as I can. Gusto ko tumulong, gusto kong matuto kayo kahit paano dito sa simpleng video discussion na ito. And with that, I bid you farewell, stay safe always, and God bless. Bye-bye.